Hello there everyone. Today I'm going to show you how to make this heart infinity wirework pendant, and this is mine here. So I just chose to make this in copper wire. You can see we have the infinity shape, but I then incorporated a heart into it just to make it a bit romantic and a bit different. And then I've also added little loops in the infinity shape where we can then attach whatever kind of chain we want to. I'll just attach the plain chain, but obviously you can make your own or you can do whatever you want. So that's what it looks like. So if you want to learn how to make this one here, then stay tuned. So this is the wire that we'll need. Now I'm using two different gauges of regular round copper wire. The first one here is a 0.8mm, and this is going to be the base wire, so the strength of the piece. And then here I'm using a 0.4mm. This is going to be the weaving wire that we're going to wrap around the base wire here to achieve the effect. So let's get the wire ready and let's get started. So then the first length of wire that we're going to need is this length of 0.8mm of about 60 centimeters, and this is going to be the base wire and it's enough for the whole piece. And then we also need a length of 0.4mm here of about 2 meters, and this is going to be the weaving wire around the base wire. So then the very first thing that I did was draw a little sketch here of how I wanted my piece to look. So I first started out making the infinity shape and make it as symmetrical as I could. And then I added in the heart here where I want it placed. So I wanted the bottom of the heart to be right at the crossover point, and then the top up here continue. So you can draw in the shape first and you can just cross out that little bit in the heart after you add the heart. And then I added where I wanted the loops to be placed as well, because what I'm going to be doing is keep referring back to this sketch to kind of make sure that I'm following the right shape as I'm making the piece. And it's just also a good way to make sure you're getting the right size that you want. Now this measures about 5.5 centimeters across in the length, and then the height of it is about 2 centimeters, but obviously you can make yours however you want to. So where we need to start is making the hat here. So I'm going to start at the very cleft of the hat and then make the shape, and then we continue with the infinity shape. So what we need to do is get out the base wire, the full length there that we've cut ready, and what I'm going to be doing is finding the midpoint. So I've already placed my pliers here where I know the midpoint is. You can measure that depending how long your length is. And then what we need to do is put a bend in it. So I'm going to bend one side here against the pliers to get about a 90-degree angle in there. You can always adjust it just to get it in there for now. And then we need to obviously measure against the sketch to make sure we're on the right track. So I'm just going to take it and then place it against the sketch here where the cleft is, and then we can see if we have the proper bend, and it looks pretty good for where the angles are coming out from with the longer ends of the wire. So now I need to shape the tails around to get the curves on the side, and for that I'm then using my 6-step bell making pliers here. Now you can just use some kind of mandrel that you have or anything you can find, but I like using this because you can choose what step you want and then make sure however many loops or shapes you make with that, it becomes the exact same size. So I'm going to be using this and then placing this on my wire. I'm choosing, by the way, the third largest one for now anyway. It's not necessarily going to be the exact size that I want, but it can give me a rough shape, and then I can always adjust it and then place my pliers so I have that shape kind of below that point, but starting on one side and then grab onto there, and then I'm going to bring the long end on this side first of all the way around the pliers and coming towards the other side like that. So we can see that's going to kind of be one side of the hat, and then we'll do the other side, they're going to meet down here. But for now I'm going to leave it there. And we can always just again compare to the actual sketch. That doesn't actually look too bad. I'm going to obviously do the same on the other side. So place your pliers in the same way but just on the opposite side here, and then take that long tail from the other side and bring it all the way around in the opposite direction. Then you can see as soon as they cross over we immediately have that hat shape. But then, like I said, we just want to make sure that we have it exactly how we want it. So I'm just going to release my pliers and then double check on my sketch here that it is the size and the shape that I want it. So that actually fits pretty nicely there. But obviously you can make it larger, smaller. That's completely up to you how you want your hat to look. But that's pretty much the hat shape that we have in place now. So obviously right now, the tails, the long ends here of the wire, isn't coming in the right direction that we need them to. So we just need to fix that. But we do have the hat shape in place. So what I'm going to do is make sure I keep that shape. And then, just flipping it upside down here, I'm going to take my chain nose pliers. And we need to place them right down on the bottom of the hat. So it's going to kind of be the point. Just like that there. And then right now I'm placing it just on the bottom one here that's going out towards the right side. Just one at a time. Then I'm going to take that and bend it back against the pliers. So they end up coming straight down from the cleft and straight up from what will be the point. So something like that. And a nice bend in there. Then I'm going to put my pliers onto the other side. And do the exact same thing, but just obviously in the opposite direction. So place your pliers and then bend the wire against the pliers. So we get that nice angle in there. So also we end up with the two long ends of the wire here laying right next to each other once we have those bends in place. And you can always play around with it a little bit and keep adjusting until you're happy with how it looks, that you kept your hat shape, and then also that these two tails are lying right next to each other, and also make sure that they're straightened out so we don't have any kinks or bends in it. So once we have this in place, just like that, you can see we have the hat shape and then the two tails coming out. So now we need to also start introducing the weaving wire. So then with the hat shape here, we then need to take a length of a 0.4mm wire, that's the weaving wire, because we need to start weaving below the hat to then actually get the section that we're going to turn into the infinity symbol. So what I'm going to do is have this work towards one end of it, have a short tail coming behind just to have something to hold on to, and then we need to start our weave. So what I'm going to do is it's coming behind, then I'm going to bring it across the top of them, but then go down between the two base wires, coming all the way down between there, and then just, it's basically wrapping around the bottom one by itself, and then just push it up to right below the hat, so the very point there. Now it might want to slip further up, but just kind of hold it there in place, and eventually once we get some more weaving done and we start making the shape as well, it will not keep moving up the hat, so the hat will stay without weave on it for now. But then we need to bring it across the top of both of the base wires. So across the top, all the way to the top. And right at the beginning can be the most fiddly because obviously the hat is one piece and it's one length of wire, but it's kind of two lengths of the base wires that we've got here. So just work with it for now, get a few weaves, a few wraps in place, and then it'll start getting much easier. And then from behind we need to come up between the two base wires and then push that down, and then around the top one by itself, again towards the back, and then again it comes down behind the base wires. And now we'll basically start from scratch. So we do all this again. This is, you could call it one round of the weave. So it's coming from behind, go over the top, down between the two base wires, so in between from the top here, so it's just wrapping around the bottom one, push it down, and then over the top of both of them, come down behind to then come up between the two base wires, and then use that to push it down nice and close. So again, your weave becomes nice and tight as well, and then just wrap around the top wire by itself and have the weaving wire come straight down behind and towards the bottom. So we're now ready to make another round, and this is then the weave that we're going to be doing. So just keep doing this for a while until we have a decent length. So now that I've been weaving for a bit, this is then what it looks like. So you can see we'll have the hat there, and then with this long length of weave coming right underneath it from the point of the hat. And then what I'm going to do, I don't want to weave too much either though, so do be careful, because what we need to do is actually get to the point here I'm going to add in the first loop. So I'm just going to lay my hat where it needs to be, just like that. And what you can do is measure it along the way. So either have a piece of scrap wire that you measure the length that you need to weave and then straighten it out and then measure how long as you're going, or cord or whatever you have. But then now what we need to do is start shaping this. So again, I'm going to use my sketch, make sure I've got the heart placed correctly. Something like that. And then I'm going to start shaping this. So I'm going to make sure that the weave is lying flat, so the two base wires are still lying flat next to each other. And then I want to get this curve into it, but then bring it up towards that first loop. So just keep going, working your way towards it. So then I can see here, as I'm getting the shape right, that I just need to weave a few more rounds, because obviously from where the weave ends until where that loop starts, there's still a bit of bare base wire showing. So what I'm just going to do is weave a bit more. So you can always do that as well, just rather weave too little than too long, because you can always add a few more rounds. So I'm just going to get to that point there. So now that I reached that point completely here, so I have my heart, the shape of the weave, and then the weave ends right where I need to add in that loop. What I then need to do to add in that loop is I'm going to again use my 6-step bell making pliers, and I'm going to just use the smallest size here because I don't need the loops to be too big. And then what I just need to do first of all here is just open the legs up a little bit. So the two base wires, I'm just going to bring them apart a little bit because we need to make a bit of space for the pliers. So what I'm going to do is then put my pliers in here. You can see we need to open it up to get the pliers in, and I'm going to put the small side that I want the loop to be towards the outside, away from the piece completely, because the loop is going to be on the outside here. We're going to be bringing the outer base wire around it. So just get your pliers in there so we can make this loop right next to where the weave ends. So I'm just gradually making my way in, so that means kind of pushing this further and further away from the other leg. And then when I'm about there, we then need to completely make a circle. So what I'm going to do is take the long end here and bring it even further around. So it's going to end up making a full circle. You can always just move the pliers a bit on the piece. So you can see here, bringing it back around. And then what we need to do is I'm bringing it over the top, but it needs to then come back out in the same direction where it was coming before. So we basically just added in a circle into the wire, but then have it come out in the same way as before. So that's what it looks like. So I'm just going to put the sketch away again, just because we're done with that for now. I'm going to keep referring back to it, but for now I just want to keep weaving here. So what we need to do is obviously continue this weave, but we need to just get from this side of the loop to the other side. So all I'm going to do is bring my weaving wire here towards the now bottom base wire, so the one that hasn't got a loop on it, and all I'm going to do is coil around this base wire until we reach the other side of the loop, so we can start then going straight back in to the regular weave again. So we just keep going here. You can see we're coiling around that single base wire, making our way. And then it's once we start the weave on the other side, that's going to then secure the loop in place. So I'm pretty much getting there. And then I think I can start the double wrap now. So you could say I've made my first single wrap on the bottom base wire now, and then I'm going to go over the top of both of them. So the exact same weave. Now what you just have to make sure to do is, because this is the first one after the loop, you just have to control the wires so they stay exactly how we want them to, and then come up between so we can wrap around the top one by itself, just like that. And you can see we have this wrap that we've been doing throughout, this wire weave, but just on the other side of the loop, and that's added in that loop nicely. So what you want to do now is continue weaving like this, the exact same weave, again for a decent length, but then kind of measure it throughout against your sketch so that we can obviously make sure we don't weave too much. So I'm just going to keep referring back to it again so we can stay on track. Obviously for now I know I can just keep weaving, but what we need to do, keep weaving on these base wires, so we're going to get a nice enough length. We're going to start shaping it. You can also do that along the way, maybe get a decent length and then shape it coming across here. Whether you want to then bring it behind or in front of the little hat right below it there, that's completely up to you, really, it doesn't matter. So just bring it, follow that shape, because then we need to weave until we reach this point over here where we then have the loop as well. And then you just want to do the same thing as we did here, make the loop on the outer wire, and then after that you want to weave some more until we then need this length from the loop until we then reach the very cleft of the hat. So that's what you want to do now, following this shape, so we end up with the hat but with the infinity shape and the loops there, one on either side. So then you can see when I've made the other half of the infinity shape there, we have it looking nicely compared to the sketch as well, it matches nicely. But then what we're left with is the infinity shape, but that's not connected together, so it's still open. And obviously what we'll need to do is connect it together so it's more fastened and more secure, but also then actually finish off the ends that we have left, both of the base wire but the weaving wire as well. So I have the ends of the base wire here coming over the top of the hat, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my chain nose pliers because we need to connect these ends to the very cleft of the hat. But what I need to do first of all is just kind of make a little bit more space so it's going to lie flatter and not be too bulky. So I'm going to grab the two base wires right after where my weave ends and then bend it back a bit just to give a bit of an angle in there so it comes away from the hat, the two ends, because what we need to make sure of is that these base wires right where they end with the weave, that instead of lying over the top of the hat, that they actually end up aligning with it. So you can see just like that. So then what we need to do is get these down through the hat. Now you can do this one at a time, might be the easiest. What we'll need to do is just get a gentle curve in there, a bit at a time, and just take your time doing this because it can be a little bit fiddly. Just going to take one leg, you could say, at a time, and using chain nose pliers can also help. Grabbing that and pushing it down through the hat, and then go to the side and pull it through. And I'm holding my thumb and my finger on the end of the weave, so those base wires, but also a bit over the hat, just so it kind of stays exactly where I want it to be connected, and doesn't move around too much. So it comes down through like this, and first we just kind of need to bring it through. So I'm then going to take the other one and do exactly the same. It's just a matter of getting them through right now, because then what we'll do is connect them. Bring it all the way through like that. Now you might find that they've kind of flattened out a bit, so just use your pliers wherever you need to make sure it all still fits together. So it still fits in that cleft of the hat there. So whatever adjustments you have to make sure the legs are going kind of their own direction. A bit like that. Then what I'm just going to do is flip it around just to kind of organize these wires a little bit, separate them out. And then what you maybe just want to do now is double check with the sketch just to make sure it's stayed the same size and shape, so it hasn't gone a little bit out of shape, because then it's best adjusting that now. So then just flip my piece on the back here so I can work on finishing these base wires off. So I'm just going to be using these chain nose pliers. It's a little bit easier to get in those little areas than your fingers, and then I can hold on to the rest of the piece with my other hand. So what I'm just going to do is one leg at a time, just gradually get it kind of tighter and tighter around that cleft of the hat, kind of one at a time, work a little bit, and then swap sides, and then do a little bit on the other side, tighten it up. And then as I'm going as well, I want to just check from the front that I haven't put anything out of shape or everything still looks fine, because then if you need to adjust anything, you're much better off doing that during, because it might be too difficult, or it might just be impossible to do after. So rather kind of fix it along the way. Tighten this up a little bit more. So basically until they feel pretty nice and tight around the cleft of the hat there with that base wire that we made. And then what we have to do is actually get rid of the excess and then be able to just tuck away the ends. So I take my flush cutters to then be able to cut off the excess of these base wires. So right on the back here where they're coming around the cleft of the hat, I'm going to be cutting off the excess right down just after the cleft basically of the hat, because then what I'm going to do, we're just going to make sure there's a little bit of a tail left of a few millimeters. So something a bit like that, and rather cut it so the tail is too long than too short that's left, because you can always go in and cut off a bit more if you need to, but obviously if you cut it too short you can't add any more wire to it, the length, and cut off the other one. And then I'm going to take my flush cutters again, because we then just need to squeeze them in because they're not really fastened yet. This could still move, you can see, away from the hat. So what I'm going to do is use my chain nose to push them in, and it's really up to you how you do it best. Whatever angle you need to come in from, come in a bit from the side and push it down, because what you want to achieve is that the very end of the wire that we cut off wraps around the cleft of the hat, that base wire, and then meets up against itself on the other side there. You can take both of them from the side, or you can do one at a time and squeeze them in. And you just want to squeeze them until you feel like it's nice and secure, and it's basically stopped moving around. So something like that. You see now, it won't really move apart anymore. So just do that, and then you've finished off, you've actually got the infinity shape, but then you finished off the base wires as well in this way. So obviously because that's the connection point, you want to make sure that they are really nice and tight. So this isn't going to come undone or can be pulled apart too easily. So then we have the tails of our weaving wire left that we need to kind of also get rid of. First of all, I'm going to go to the short end, the one that we started out weaving with by the bottom or the point of the hat. And then what I'm going to do is coming out towards the back now. And what I just want to do as well, because in the middle here you can see this isn't connected either, and I just want to make sure to do that, because otherwise it'll be kind of wobbly. This is going to add to the strength. So I'm going to take that length, go around, because it's connected to the front piece, then I'm going to go around the back one, and then what you can do is kind of pull at it a little bit tight, and also you can use your chain nose and squeeze down, because you can then get it to blend in with that weave. So go in between the wraps that you've already done there. Then on the front here, it's coming up. I'm going to then bring it around the front side of this part, but then down through that loop on the other side. Again, pull it tight so it blends in, because then you really won't be able to see it. You can see a slight difference in the weave, the pattern of the weave, if you look really close, but obviously it just blends in nicely so you won't notice it. It's coming back towards the back again, and then I just want to bring it back up towards the hat, so across that side as well. Just get it into place and then pull that tight, and you can kind of feel a little click when it clicks into the weave, and that means it's blending in nicely. And then it's come back towards the front, and then all I'm going to do with this is just bring it through the hat, make sure it stays tight against all these wraps that we've done around the weaves, and then bring it through the hat there, but staying down at the very point, and I'm going to come around that base wire just on the bottom of the hat, just to be able to finish it off. Just a few wraps here, because we don't want to fill up the hat too much, because then it again kind of just blends in with the end of the actual weave. You can push it down nicely as far as it'll go. So really it's just going to blend in nicely like that. And then all I'm going to do to finish it off is cut off the excess right close to where the last wrap is. And just find it with my pliers here. Like that. And then make sure whenever you've cut an end of a wire off that you take your chain nose pliers and just squeeze it down. And I like to kind of squeeze it down and then roll it a bit in the direction that the wrap is going, because that really tucks it into place. So there we go, that's now finished off. So then we just have this length of weaving wire left on the other end, and all I'm going to do is cut that down, the excess, because it's already been weaved obviously this whole length, so it's not just going to come undone. So what I'm going to do is cut it down so I have just a tiny little length left, and then as it's wrapping around I want to make sure to then squeeze this end down that we have left, so it basically ends up, you can get the very end in between the two base wires right at the end there, and that'll tuck it away. Put your finger over it to make sure you can't feel it, and if you can't, then that's done. So really that's your piece done now. So all that's left to do is attach whatever kind of chain that you want, either a plain chain, or you could also make your own with some beads, add some colour to it. That would be really nice as well. So just do that and then you'll have your finished piece. So I then attach my chain here on either side using jump rings through those loops that we added in as we were making the infinity shape as well. So that's what we're using them for. Like I said, you can attach whatever you want. And I've just added my chain here and then using extended chain and a lot of claw clasp on the back. Like I said, it's personal preference, what you prefer. So that's what it looks like. So it's quite a simple design here, and it's similar to one I've done before, but where I wrote love across. Here I just made a hat instead. I thought that'd be nice, and we're making the infinity shape in a slightly different way as well. So I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial then, and thank you very much for watching.